Welcome back, everyone. Today's deep dive is going to be exciting, I think.
Yeah, it looks like we're going deep into the world of arts and technology.
You got that right. And,
Yeah.
our listeners certainly didn't hold back on the source material,
Oh, no kidding. We've got a whole stack of ArtsIT conference papers here.
spanning an entire decade, no less.
Wow. That's quite the reading list. Gives us a chance to really see how the field has evolved over time, though, right?
Absolutely. We've got everything from digital poetry hidden out there in the real world
Oh, cool.
to virtual reality documentaries and everything in between.
It's really amazing to see what people are doing at the intersection of these two worlds. Art and tech, who knew they went together so well.
Right. And that's exactly what we're going to be exploring today. The surprising ways technology is transforming art and what it means for all of us, not just as audiences, but as creators.
Yeah.
And just humans existing in this increasingly digital world.
It's a fascinating time to be alive, that's for sure.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So why don't we jump right in? One of the papers from the 2013 conference really grabbed my attention.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
It was about this project called Subway, where they connected dancers in Iran and the U.S.
Wow.
through an Android app.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were actually able to perform together, despite being thousands of miles apart.
That's incredible.
The result was really powerful, very moving. It really highlighted how technology can break down barriers and facilitate this kind of cultural exchange.
Yeah. It's not just about the tech itself, right?
Exactly. It's about how it can be used to bridge divides and create these connections that just wouldn't be possible otherwise.
It's using tech to build bridges instead of walls.
I love that. So makes me wonder, how else are artists using technology to kind of break down these barriers and create new forms of expression?
Well, there was this other project from the 2013 conference that I thought was super cool. It's called Code Poetry.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So these researchers, they basically scattered QR codes all over Athens.
Huh.
And when you scan one of these codes, it takes you to a poem from this curated online collection.
So you're just walking down the street, minding your own business, and bam, you stumble upon a poem.
Exactly. They basically turn the whole city into this hidden poetry exhibition. I think it's a brilliant way to make poetry more accessible.
I love it. It's like a surprise gift waiting to be discovered.
Totally. And it really plays with that idea of demystifying art, art forms that might otherwise feel intimidating.
Oh, for sure.
It makes it more approachable, more engaging.
Absolutely. Kind of reminds me of another project from the 2013 proceedings, actually. Soundwalker, I think it was called.
Okay, yeah.
They created these really cool audio walks where location-based technology, like GPS, adds layers of sound to physical spaces.
Yeah.
So as you're walking around, you're not just seeing the environment.
Yeah.
You're also hearing this soundscape that's been specifically designed for that location.
Oh, that's so cool. It's like you're walking through a sound sculpture.
Exactly. And it really changes how you experience that space. It's like a whole new layer of meaning is added on top of what's already there.
It's like the city itself becomes a musical instrument, in a way.
Right. So we've got technology helping break down barriers and create new forms of expression. And now it's also starting to change how we experience those very spaces we inhabit.
It's all connected. It's really exciting.
Definitely. Now, speaking of how technology is changing the way we experience things, what about interactive art?
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about that. There are so many cool projects that are using technology to create these really immersive, interactive experiences.
Totally. Like that Marsilli Spirit project, right? Tell me about that one.
Okay, so Marsilli Spirit is this smartphone app that guides visitors through various Marsillian sites in Bologna.
Interesting.
But here's the cool part. The app's functionality changes depending on your location.
Whoa, really? So it's like a choose-your-own-adventure kind of thing.
Exactly. It's super interactive and engaging. You're not just passively following a tour guide. You're actively exploring and uncovering the history of these places in a really unique way.
I love that idea. It's like gamifying the whole museum experience, which can sometimes feel a little stuffy.
Right. Technology brings this whole new level of engagement and excitement to it. Plus, it extends the reach of these museums and historical sites beyond their physical walls, Like you could be on the other side of the world and still experience these places in a meaningful way.
That's amazing. It really democratizes access to culture and history.
Exactly. It opens up so many possibilities.
It does. And it makes you wonder, how these interactive elements actually impact the way we experience and interpret art.
Yeah, like, are we more likely to remember something if we've interacted with it in a meaningful way?
Right. And what about things like augmented choreography?
No, yeah, that's another great
Where
example.
dancers' movements can actually control lighting and projections during a performance.
Yeah, creating this really dynamic and responsive environment. There was a study in the 2013 conference that explored this concept in detail. They did ethnographic research with
Oh,
choreographers
wow.
to really understand their needs and challenges. And one thing that came up was this need for user-friendly tools that actually respect the choreographer's creative process,
Yeah.
because technology shouldn't overshadow the artist's
You
vision.
should enhance it, right?
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance. Technology as a tool for empowerment, not control.
I think that's a great point. All of these examples really showcase how technology is blurring the lines between artist, artwork, and audience. It's a shift from this passive observation
Yeah.
to this active participation. And it definitely raises some interesting questions about what art means in this increasingly digital age.
It challenges our traditional definitions, that's for sure. And I think that's a good thing. It means we're constantly reevaluating and expanding our understanding of what art can be.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole field so exciting, right? There's this constant evolution and exploration.
Totally. It's a never-ending adventure.
Speaking of evolution, one thing that stood out to me as I was reading through these papers was how kind of slowly over time, technology has been integrated into the art world. Like one of the papers mentioned how early computer-generated art
Oh, yeah.
was met with a lot of skepticism.
There was definitely some resistance at first. People weren't sure what to make of it.
Right. And it's interesting how perceptions shift over time, isn't it?
Totally. What was once considered radical or even threatening can become commonplace as technology becomes more integrated into our lives. It's happened with photography, film, and now with digital art forms.
It's a good reminder that the definition of art is always evolving.
Absolutely. And technology is playing a big role in shaping that evolution, which, some people might say is a good thing, others might disagree,
Yeah.
but it's definitely happening.
I think that's what makes this whole conversation so interesting. There's no easy answers. It's
Yeah.
all about exploring these ideas and seeing where they lead us.
Exactly. It's a journey of discovery.
Now, speaking of blurring lines and challenging definitions, there was this project described in one of the papers
Yeah.
where they use code to generate visual compositions based on images that were selected by the viewer.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. It was really cool.
So the audience wasn't just viewing the art, they were actually contributing to its creation.
It blurred the lines between artist and audience in a really interesting way.
Right. And it makes you wonder, where does the artist's role end and the audience's role begin?
It's a question that's becoming more and more relevant as technology continues to change the way we create and experience art.
Totally. And speaking of technology changing things up, there was this study in one of the papers that looked at music performance.
Okay. Yeah.
And it contrasted the physicality of live Foley art, like creating sound effects live with the precision of recorded sound. They used the Grand Guignol Theater as a case study.
Oh, interesting choice. I love that theater. It's known for its over-the-top special effects, right?
Exactly. So it was this really interesting juxtaposition of the rawness of live performance versus the controlled perfection of technology.
Makes you wonder if one is better than the other or if it's just different approaches.
Right. And the researchers actually experimented with these pressure-sensitive devices to try and bridge that gap
Cool.
between the human performer and the sound they were creating.
Yeah.
It was like they were trying to find a way to bring the two worlds together.
Yeah, it's that constant quest for balance, isn't it?
I think so. And it brings up this bigger question. As technology becomes more and more integrated into art, how do we maintain that human element, that raw emotion, that spark of creativity that makes art so compelling?
It's the million-dollar question, and I think it's one that we'll continue to grapple with as technology continues to evolve.
Absolutely. It's a conversation that's just getting started, really.
It's an exciting time to be having this conversation, that's for sure.
No kidding. There's so much to explore and so much potential for the future. But hey, we've covered a lot of ground already in this first section, and I'm starting to get a little thirsty.
Yeah, me too. My throat is getting dry from all this talking. How about we take a quick break, grab some refreshments, and come back for more deep diving?
Sounds good to me. We'll be right back after a short break. It's amazing to think how technology is not just changing the way we create art, but also how we preserve it and share it, for the future.
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge challenge, especially with these interactive multimedia installations.
Oh, yeah, those.
Yeah.
Because they rely on such specific hardware and software, right?
Exactly. And that stuff becomes obsolete so quickly. Like, what happens when the technology that powers an installation just disappears?
Yeah, but it's like, how do you even preserve the essence of the artwork at that point?
Well, that's what's so interesting. The 2013 ArtsIT paper actually proposed this preservation model. It focuses on capturing both the technical specs of an installation. Okay.
But also the artistic concept behind it. So it's not just about saving the code.
It's about understanding the artist's intention and the experience they were going for.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Although it sounds pretty complicated to pull off, especially with technology changing so fast.
It definitely has its challenges.
Yeah.
But the good news is there are researchers working on new tools and strategies to help with this.
Oh, that's good to hear. Is that what that 2023 ArtsIT paper was about? The one about mixed reality and cultural heritage?
Yes. They were looking at using mixed reality to basically reconstruct historical scenography.
Yeah. Imagine being able to step back in time and experience a theatrical performance from like centuries ago.
I know, right? The researchers actually built this prototype that uses all sorts of cool techniques to create this truly immersive experience. Like you can put on a headset and suddenly you're transported to another time and place.
It sounds like a time machine for art lovers.
Totally. And it's not just limited to theater. They're using this technology to recreate all sorts of cultural heritage sites. Oh, wow. Speaking of making art more accessible, what about that project that used virtual reality for those geoscience field trips? That one was really cool.
Yeah, that was a fascinating one. It focused on the Varvito Geological Park in Brazil,
Right?
and they basically created a digital outcrop model of the park, which means students can explore these geological formations virtually, like in a VR environment.
It's like a virtual field trip.
Exactly. So even if you can't physically travel to the park, you can still experience it and learn from it.
It's a game changer for education. It really democratizes access to these amazing places.
Absolutely. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities for learning and exploration. Which brings us to our final theme for today, technology as a bridge between art and audience.
Ooh, I like that. It makes sense too, right?
Mm.
We've talked about how technology is changing how art is created and preserved, but what about how it's changing the way we experience art?
Exactly. It's a crucial part of the equation.
So how is technology bridging that gap between art and audience then?
Well, let's start with something fun. Remember all those classic video games we grew up with?
Like Tetris and Pac-Man?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the 2013 ArtsIT paper talked about this project where they reimagined these games using only a single line of pixels.
Whoa, really? Like just a single line?
Yeah, they call them 1D games.
That's such a cool concept. So they basically took something visually complex and stripped it down to its bare essence.
Exactly. And it really forces you to think about the game in a totally different way. Like, what are the core mechanics that make this game work? What makes it engaging?
It's like taking something apart to see how it ticks, but for video games.
Exactly. And it's not just about understanding how the game works, but also about understanding how it makes you feel.
Oh, I see. Like how a game can evoke certain emotions or experiences, even in its simplest form.
Yes. And speaking of evoking emotions and experiences, there's another paper from the 2023 ArtsIT conference that I think you'll find interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
This one is all about how games can be designed to evoke and manage curiosity.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. So like creating a sense of mystery or intrigue that keeps players hooked.
Exactly. The researchers actually developed this whole framework for understanding the psychology of what motivates players. It's about tapping into that natural human curiosity and using it to create really engaging experiences.
It's like they're hacking our brains to make us want to play more.
In a way, yes. But it's all about creating positive experiences that encourage exploration and discovery.
That's so cool. So we've got technology helping us preserve art, making it more accessible, and now it's even changing how we design games to make them more engaging.
It's amazing, right? And it's not just limited to games. This idea of bridging the gap between complex information and audience understanding is relevant to so many different fields.
Oh, absolutely. Like that DIL4U project, right? The one that used information visualization to make linguistic data more accessible.
Yes, that's a perfect example. They created this web page that uses all these cool visualization techniques to present complex information in a really engaging way.
It was so clever. It's like they took something that could have been really dry and technical and made it visually stunning and interactive.
Exactly. And that's the power of technology, right? It can help us communicate complex ideas in a way that's both informative and engaging.
It's all about finding new ways to connect with our audience and make information meaningful.
Precisely. And that's something we should all be striving for, no matter what field we're in.
It's amazing how much ground we've covered in this deep dive into arts and technology.
I know, right? It's been quite the journey.
From QR codes unlocking poems in the city to using mixed reality to bring ancient theaters back to life. It's clear that technology is reshaping the art world in ways we never could have imagined.
It really is. It's pushing boundaries and creating all sorts of new possibilities for artists and audiences alike. What's been the biggest takeaway for you from all of this?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's realizing how technology is not just a tool for artists, but it's actually driving the evolution of art itself. Right.
Absolutely. It's changing how art is created, experienced, preserved, even how it's shared.
Exactly. And I think that project connecting dancers in Iran and the US through an app was such a powerful example of that.
Yeah, it really highlighted how technology can break down geographical barriers and connect people through art.
And who would have thought you could use something as simple as a QR code to turn an entire city into a poetry exhibition?
I know, right? It's so creative.
Yeah.
And it makes art so much more accessible to people who might not typically seek it out.
And then there's Soundwalker, transforming everyday walks into immersive sound experiences.
And Marsilli's Spirit, turning a historical tour into an interactive adventure game.
It's amazing how technology can blur the lines between the physical and digital worlds, creating these hybrid spaces for art and reality to intersect.
It really does make you think about how these experiences are shaping our perception of the world around us.
For sure. And as technology keeps advancing, who knows what other incredible possibilities will emerge? I mean, think about those mixed reality reconstructions of historical scenography or those virtual reality field trips for geoscience education. We're just scratching the surface.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time to be exploring the intersection of arts and technology.
But, amidst all this technological innovation, I keep coming back to the importance of that human element.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That spark of creativity, that emotional connection, that raw human expression. Those are the things that make art so powerful and meaningful.
I completely agree. Technology should be a tool that empowers artists and enhances human expression, not something that replaces it.
Right. And that's why I found that research on augmented choreography so fascinating.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
It's not about technology dictating the performance. It's about creating tools that give dancers more ways to express themselves and interact with their environment.
Exactly. And it's not just about the artists, right? Technology is also changing how we experience art as an audience.
Yeah. Making us more active participants rather than just passive observers.
We see that with interactive installations, augmented reality experiences, even in those 1D games we talked about.
Right. Remember how those games stripped everything down to the bare essentials, forcing us to rethink how we interact with digital entertainment?
Yeah. It's all about finding creative ways to bridge that gap between complex information and audience understanding.
Like that Dial for You project, using data visualization to make linguistic data more accessible and engaging.
Exactly. It's a great example of how technology can be used to make information more meaningful and relevant to people.
So I guess as we wrap up this deep dive, the big question we're left with is this. What role do we want technology to play in shaping the future of art?
It's a question for all of us, not just artists and technologists.
Exactly. How do we want to experience art in the future? What kind of art do we want to create? And how can we use technology responsibly and ethically to push the boundaries of artistic expression while still preserving that essential human element that makes art so powerful?
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Definitely. But by having these conversations, by exploring the possibilities and the challenges of technology in the arts, we can help shape a future where art continues to inspire us, challenge us, and connect us in meaningful ways.
I think that's a great note to end on.
I agree. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope you found it as thought-provoking and inspiring as we did.
We'll see you next time.